Now get the guns, the drugs from my generation. I'll take the fall, the saints, and across the nation. And it's a sex, the gods, the fakes, the fraud, they're messing with me. Come on, come on, come on, let's get it out. Move to the music, play that fucking music. Live through my music, yeah.
Hey everyone, and thank you for joining me for another special episode of Reliving the War. We've arrived at the 4th of March 1996. The WWF were presenting an unopposed episode of Monday Night Raw as WCW was preempted. The bigwigs at TNT wanted to show a made-for-TV Civil War movie named Andersonville, so Vince McMahon and company had a great opportunity here to deliver an eye-catching show that would try to lure in some of those faithful WCW supporters. Remember that Nitro went unopposed just a few weeks back and their show wasn't all that great. So let's see how the WWF did this week, and let's see if they could capitalize on the opportunity presented. Just like our previous Reliving the War special, this episode is really just to keep us all up to date on what happened when one show didn't get broadcasted, and so for obvious reasons we won't have a scoring system this week. These special episodes will only happen on occasion, by the way. It's just strange we've had two unopposed nights so close together, but anyway, you guys decided you'd like to see these special episodes during unopposed nights, and I'm happy to put them together. Let's get to it then as we take a look at the March 4th, 1996 episode of Monday Night Raw. The WWF wastes no time in dropping the bombshells. We're going to find out the destiny of the Ultimate Warrior on this very episode of Raw. We're going to see Goldust create his very own Piper's Pit segment, and we also have Shawn Michaels and Bret Hart in action. HBK and the Hitman are going to WrestleMania XII to work a 60-minute marathon match, and the WWF would now begin some serious hype towards the historic Mania main event. So you can expect to see some more hype videos around Bret vs Shawn in the following weeks. We go to the arena and we hear Shawn Michaels' theme music. Our very first match features HBK taking on the 1-2-3 Kid. I'm expecting good things here, so let's see how it turned out. While there's no doubt that the Shawn Michaels pandering by Vince McMahon was really overdone during this time period, you'd be lying to yourself if you said that Shawn wasn't seriously over at this time of his career. His entrance here just reinforces that statement. Say what you want about Shawn's mannerisms and how he carries himself, WWF audiences in early 1996 treated Shawn like a rock star. HBK knew he was good. His confidence at the time may grate on some people, but Michaels was easily one of the WWF's very best, and I do think that putting the title on Shawn was the right thing to do. And yes, of course, business was down when Shawn was champion, but it was also down with previous champion Bret Hart, and it was also down with the champion before that, Diesel, and it would also be down with Psycho Sid later in 1996. It didn't matter who pulled the cart during this time period, the whole direction of the WWF needed to change, and I've always found it unfair to place all the blame on the company's champion. Think about it this way, the WWE had one of their most profitable years with Sheamus as the WWE champion. That should tell you all you need to know. Anyway, Kid tries to attack Shawn during HBK's entrance, but Shawn sends Waltman over the top rope. The bell rings and it's time to go. The two men lock up and Kid gets the advantage with a side headlock. Shawn tries to take Kid to the top rope, but Kid keeps his momentum with a top rope headlock takedown, not once, but twice. Kid is then able to nail Shawn with a strike combination, ending with a heel kick. So far, so good. Shawn answers with a few arm drag takedowns that look incredibly smooth and effortless. The Kid takes a gorilla press slam before getting sent over the top rope. Shawn skins the cat before pandering to the audience a little, and as the action continues, we get a split screen and Bret Hart is sitting there in his gear with sunglasses on, watching the match unfold. Vince asks Bret what he thinks of the match so far, and Bret says while it is impressive, Shawn wouldn't get away with some of this stuff against the Hitman. Back in the ring, Shawn hits a power slam on the Kid and we see a grounded headlock applied. The two men get to their feet and Kid shoots Michaels off the ropes, following up with a spinning heel kick. Kid then drop kicks Shawn out of the ring before following up with a diving crossbody to the outside. Ted DiBiase gets in a few cheap shots as we go back to Bret Hart. Bret says he doesn't want to see anything bad happen to Shawn here because the Hitman and the Heartbreak Kid are friends. Great analysis here from the excellence of execution. Back inside the ring, the Kid stomps Shawn on the mat and HBK takes more kicks in the corner. Kid then hits a running drop kick as we go to commercial break. Shawn is giving his buddy a lot in this match, by the way. It's been all 1-2-3 Kid so far. We come back from commercials and Kid has a chin lock applied. Shawn fights his way out before hitting the ropes. Shawn grabs the Kid's leg, but Kid follows up with a front enziguri. A flying clothesline from the Heartbreak Kid sends both men to the mat. Kid gets to his feet first, but Shawn nips up, and it's now time for Waltman to begin selling for the number one contender. HBK is able to hit a nice moonsault to a standing 1-2-3 Kid. We see Shawn's flying forearm and the big elbow drop. Michaels then goes for sweet chin music, but the Kid sees it coming. The Kid decides to get out of the ring and take advantage when Shawn follows. Kid hits a scoop slam and he goes to the top rope. A leg drop fails to hit the mark. We see the sweet chin music, and a good TV match comes to an end with Shawn Michaels getting the victory. Shawn celebrates with a young fan in the ring, and the little Kid looks like she's having the time of her life. Bret Hart would later complain about this type of thing, but come on, it's harmless. Up next, Goldust is going to give us his very own Piper's Pit segment. I mentioned this last week, but it's very jarring how the Piper vs Goldust rivalry just started out of nowhere and not a single word was mentioned about Razor Ramon. I know the World Wrestling Federation had other programming besides Raw, of course, but the whole Razor vs Goldust feud unfolded on Monday nights and on pay-per-view. Piper's involvement is just kind of thrown on to fans here. Goldust is on the Piper's Pit set wearing a kilt. Goldust says that he used to watch Piper's Pit as a teenager and he used to hang on to Piper's every word. The bizarre one says he erupted with pleasure when Piper smashed the coconut over Jimmy Snuka's head. But Goldust also says the times had to change and Piper ended up getting into Hollywood movies. After admitting that he got a rise out of Piper's performance in They Live, Goldust compares Piper's Hollywood credentials with his own, saying that Piper is just a mere extra when it comes to Tinseltown. Goldust then grabs a set of bagpipes and the whole mood of the promo unintentionally changes when Goldust makes this noise. Fantastic. The promo wraps up with Vince McMahon saying that this is some of the worst acting he's ever seen in his life. We are now going to get the major announcement surrounding the Ultimate Warrior. Vince McMahon narrates a video talking about the rise of the Warrior, and Vince makes sure to mention Warrior's victories over Hulk Hogan and Randy Savage at WrestleMania 6 and 7. No other matches are mentioned here, by the way, so yes, this was a jab at WCW. Warrior's theme music then begins to play as Vince McMahon announces that the rumours are true. The Warrior is returning to the WWF, and he's returning at WrestleMania 12. Look, hindsight is 2020 with these things. I covered Warrior's 1996 return previously, and I see some other channels have done the same. I think the general consensus here is that Warrior's 1996 return was a little disappointing to say the least, but I don't doubt for a minute that many fans got excited for this announcement. I was never a big Warrior fan, but I appreciate the fan base that Warrior grew during the late 80s and early 90s. Warrior making a WWF return once again would have got a lot of fans hyped up, and really that's what it's all about. Moving on, we have Hakushi versus Justin Hawk Bradshaw. This would be Hakushi's final WWF Raw match, a shame too because the guy was super talented. On the flip side, this was JBL's very first appearance on Raw. Vince McMahon says that Justin Hawk Bradshaw is a throwback to the old Western days, even saying that Bradshaw is a modern day Stan Hansen. Yeah, right. Uncle Zebekiah is also with Bradshaw here, by the way, better known as Dirty Dutch Mantel. As the match gets underway, Roddy Piper calls calls into the show to tell us that the Ultimate Warrior's opponent will be announced next week on Raw, and Piper will also take time to address Goldust. In the ring, Bradshaw won't sell a thing. Hakushi goes for a drop kick twice, and Bradshaw swats Hakushi like a fly both times as Zebekiah looks on. Zero offense from Hakushi so far. Bradshaw lays in some stiff punches and kicks, followed by a pump handle slam. Finally, Hakushi is able to get a little competitive when he dodges an attack and he hits his cartwheel back elbow. A big boot sends Hakushi to the outside, but the modern day kamikaze quickly rolls back into the ring to deliver a plancha to Bradshaw. Hakushi overshoots his mark slightly, and this seemed to piss Bradshaw off. Bradshaw no-sells the plancha, he gets right back up, and Hakushi gets drilled into the ring apron a few times. Back inside the ring, Hakushi eats a big boot followed by a big lariat. 1, 2, 3, it's all over as Hakushi does the job on his way out. Bradshaw then hog-ties his opponent, and Zebekiah brands Hakushi with his branding iron, or his oversized Sharpie pen, whatever way you want to look at it. Afterwards we get another Mankind vignette, and we get to see a little more of Mankind's ring attire and mask during this promo. Mankind talks about overhearing his mother talking to what we assume is a doctor, and the doctor told Mrs. Foley that her son's emotion would need to get numbed down. Mankind paid the doctor a visit, and the doctor wondered how someone could be so disfigured and so cold. Mankind says that his disfigured body is the result of a world that's filled with deceit and lies, and when Mankind shows up to the WWF, no one will have a nice day. Back in the arena, Hunter Hearst Helmsley makes his way to the ring for his match against WWF champion Bret Hart. Before the Hitman makes his entrance, we go to the WWF shop where the WrestleMania XII official chair is being sold. I'm actually a fan of these ringside chairs, and I really do wish I had some of these older ones from this era, but the prices on eBay are totally insane. Bret Hart gets a great ovation on his way to the ring, and our match is underway. Triple H outsmarts Bret at the opening bell, faking a clean break before laying in a few punches to the Hitman. Hunter beats Bret from one corner to the next, but the Hitman catches Triple H with a boot followed by a jumping clothesline from the middle rope. The Hitman then begins working over Hunter's left arm on the mat before driving his knee into Hunter's elbow, and as Bret carries on to single out the body part, we see Shawn Michaels making his way down to the ring, looking like a walking advertisement for his own merchandise. Shawn sets up a chair at ringside. HBK obviously wants to get a closer look at his WrestleMania XII opponent. We come back from commercial and Bret is still working over the arm. Hunter manages to get to his feet, but Bret quickly shuts Triple H down with a crossbody. Bret then goes to the outside to question Shawn Michaels. Bret says to Shawn that he could have watched the match in the back. Triple H then tries to sneak attack the Hitman, and it's actually HBK who alerts Bret. Bret avoids the attack before drilling Hunter into the guardrail. Back inside the ring, Bret applies an armbar while staring at Shawn Michaels. Hunter is able to build some momentum after delivering the Harley Race knee, and then Hunter totally forgets that Bret was working his arm for near the entire match. There is no selling at all of the injured limb, and it's quite shocking that someone like Helmsley would forget something this basic. Bret gets whipped into the corner with velocity, and the Hitman takes a suplex followed by a knee drop, but Hunter just can't put Bret away. We come back from commercial break and we see Bret countering an aerial move by putting his foot up. The Hitman builds momentum with an atomic drop followed by a clothesline. Shawn cheers from his seat as Bret goes on to deliver a backbreaker, and then we see the elbow drop from Bret's rope. Bret can't follow up though as Hunter gets a roll up. The fight spills to the outside once again, but Shawn manages to keep his nose out of the fight. Hunter begins begging for mercy back inside the ring. Triple H then kicks Bret to the midsection before going upstairs, but Bret reverses another high risk move, this time with the sharpshooter. Viewers who have already seen the Iron Man match would know that this finish looks very familiar. Bret wins via submission. Shawn walks back up the ramp before turning around to applaud the Hitman. A decent main event match here that was let down a little thanks to Hunter forgetting to sell the arm. If I'm honest though, I thought the Kid vs HBK opening contest was better. We end this episode of Raw with another Billionaire Ted skit. This time Ted is on a trivia TV show where he's going to answer some questions. You're going to need to hunt this one down for yourself, I'm afraid. If I repeat some of the questions and quotes during this video, then there's a high chance that the video will get hammered by the YouTube gods. But basically, every question is a quote from Ted Turner, and the quotes would be seen as sexist or racist. They're just examples of Ted flaunting his wealth. There's a great moment where the host asks the Nacho Man where the huckster is, and we see a clip of the huckster still handcuffed to the ring post. Remember last week when Miss Elizabeth failed pretty badly at handcuffing Hogan during the Nitro main event? Well, the WWF mentioned this. The huckster says,
"I hope the lady handcuffed me, and I can't get out." Yeah!
Now, you have to admit that is pretty good. The Nacho Man also starts staring at the ladies beside him, and he ends up getting taken out with a high-heeled shoe. Isn't it funny how the WWF would expect you to watch Nitro in order to get all these inside jokes, by the way? In the end, Billionaire Ted gets defeated on the game show, and Raw ends with Ted pulling the plug while saying, "Just wait until I get my hands on Time Warner." So did the World Wrestling Federation do a good job here by taking advantage of an unopposed Monday night? I'd say yes, they did. The Bradshaw stuff was maybe a swing and a miss, but we did get to see the WrestleMania main eventers in action, and both matches were pretty good. In comparison to Nitro's unopposed evening, Raw was actually way better in my opinion, but unfortunately we won't be scoring these unopposed nights at all. The WWF would try to keep the momentum going next week with the Ultimate Warrior announcement. We'll also see Yokozuna and The Undertaker teaming up to take on Ken Cornette, and we're also going to get a look at HBK and the Hitman training for their Iron Man match, so that sounds pretty good. On Nitro, we'll see Hacksaw Jim Duggan versus The Giant, the Steiner Brothers versus the Road Warriors, and guess what? We get to see a 6-man tag rematch from last week. This time it's a lumberjack match, so if I have to sit through this, then you have to sit through it too. Make sure I don't die in vain, and join me next week for another episode of Reliving the War. As always, thank you for watching. The Reliving the War series and the whole Wrestling Bios channel is made possible by people just like you supporting me on Patreon. With the way things are on YouTube and the amount of time I'm putting into this channel, things have been getting a little tight, but supporters on Patreon have been helping out, and I appreciate each and every one of you guys who keep the Wrestling Bios channel going. This week's Patreon Hall of Famer is Justin Luby. Justin recently signed up on Patreon, and he's currently able to watch videos before they go on YouTube. He can see Patreon exclusive content, and he's also been able to listen to a full extended Q&A session that was just completed last week. Again, a big thank you to everyone helping me out during these unpredictable times. If you want to become a supporter like Justin, or if you just want to check out what's on offer on Patreon, you'll see a link in the video description. Thanks everyone, and take care.